I'm Don's youngest brother. Scott had suggested that I share something about his childhood days. We were born in a small town in Ohio called Mount Paragon. Don was the oldest. He was born in June 1928. Dale, born January 1, 1930. Neil, October 1935, and me in 1939, October. The small town where we were raised was kind of unique. It was located in a valley, surrounded by farms. Probably had maybe 80 people, 25 houses, but it was unique. You could drive from one edge of the town to the other in 2 minutes. We had no stoplights, no stop signs. If we did have a post office, and the post office was really small. People gathered there while they were sorting the mail. We also had a small little grocery store down at the bottom of the hill that sold gasoline. I'm in high school in 1957, graduate. Gasoline cost less than 20 cents a gallon. What was unique about Mount Prairie was it had 3 churches. Small town, but the farmers around and the people there came to church on Sunday. Our parents were church custodians, which meant, basically, as we went through high school, every one of the boys on Saturday went to the church. We swept, we mopped, we cleaned, dusted. In the summer, we'd mow the lawn, and in the winter, we'd shovel snow. And then usually, in the winter cold days, we'd go to the basement and start the fire of the church. Coal fire. My dad would go over on Saturday night, put coal in the fire so the church would be available on Sunday. Now there was a benefit by being the son of 2 church custodians. One was church started at 9, at 8:30, somebody had to ring the bell. Now the church recently just awarded a 200-year anniversary in the state of Ohio. It was a big bell, it was large. But let me tell you, as a 10-year-old, ringing a church bell was cool. Don, at 18, went off to college. I remember him remarking, his dad took him to the train station 15 miles away, put him on the train, gave him $5, and wished him well. 11 years later, in 1957, I went off to college, and Dad drove me all the way to Ohio University, the same college. Gave me $10. We often joked about the economic improvement in my dad's life between 1946 and 1957. I definitely was the beneficiary of this increase of wealth. As pointed out, after 2 years of college, he went to the Navy, flew jet planes for 5 years. Later on, I'm in my early 20s and I'm in California. Don and I take a trip back to Ohio by car. Sue and the family had flown back earlier or later. We stopped in Amarillo, Texas to see one of his flight buddy training. He owned a large cattle ranch and lots of cars and animals and so forth. He was doing well. That night when we were there, before I fell asleep, I listened to them reminisce about their great days in flight school. Get this, young guys in their 20s, ambitious, healthy, and they're going through flight school. The program was such that in Pensacola, Florida, the program was such, in the morning they would have flight instructions. The afternoon, they would be able to fly the planes. And after dinner, they'd play softball. For 2.5 months, flight instructions, flight, dinner, softball. An ideal, perfect life. One of the stories that I remember when I was falling asleep there when they were reminiscing was one that I would like to share today. In order to acquire your wings, as they say, become the pilot, you had to qualify and achieve certain things. And one of this was like target practice. Now essentially it's like flying a plane and shooting your bullets and hitting certain targets. Not just on the ground, but in the air. Now what happens is they have what they call a sled, like 15 by 15 piece of plywood. And each of the planes would make their pass, and each of the planes had different colored bullets. So they'd be able to keep score of each of the trainees. It came on Friday, and one of the trainees was not really doing well. He was on the borderline. So the guys got together, they went to the mechanic on the ground, gave him a 6-pack of beer, and suggested that since Don was doing well, maybe he could use this guy's colored bullets, and that guy who was on the borderline would use Don's colored bullets. They had the exercise, and they announced the scores later on. Guess who had the highest score? Not Don. The guy in the borderline, without pressure, nailed it. It's amazing how you can do in life when you're not under stress, but in the event it was. One other story I would like to share with you, now I go back to high school. Probably 2 or 3 boys my age, that's all we had. We would play touch football, we played basketball, and played over the line with a tennis ball because we couldn't afford a baseball. We were out there one Sunday. Now remember, Mount Curry is a small valley, and then a small valley. And I look up over the horizon and I hear this gigantic noise. It's a jet. It's Don. He's buzzing Mount Curry, Ohio. No windows were broken, but another story exists. An hour later, he's from Columbus, calls from Columbus and says, "Come pick me up. I can spend time at home this time." Not that weekend, but later, one of our favorite uncles called Uncle Tom. He had a farm outside of Mount Curry, 2 miles away. Don and Dale, in their high school days, worked for Uncle Tom in the summers for free. Neil and I were a little smarter. We didn't work for the relatives. We earned 50 cents an hour. But anyway, Uncle Tom sized up to Don during one of the reunions and asked him this. "You know, Don, I raise a lot of animals, but a lot and lots and lots of chickens. They're called free stuff. They walk around, that's how you buy them today with the cage, better. In addition to that, they had a nice little den, which was kind of a rooster, where they would go at night to prevent them from the foxes, but they were loaded. He had a lot of chickens. Don buzzed over the farm before he hit Mount Curry. Uncle Tom called him aside with a smile and said, please, don't do that again. My chickens went crazy." So finally, if you will, later in life, we're both past 50, and I asked Don, you're extremely conservative. How in the hell, as a young man, did you muster up the courage to go fly jet planes in the Navy? You're landing on an aircraft carrier at sea. In those days, the jet planes were not that sophisticated. It was like a missile. If you missed the plane or the plane down, you were at the bottom of the ocean. How did you muster up the courage to do that? He paused, he waited. 2 words. Youthful exuberance. I realized then the great sense of humor that Don had throughout life. The intelligence he had to observe life, and the ability that he had to recognize the transition that we all go through the journey of life, but not defensively, well stated, and accurately. I was blessed to have a brother like that, and Sue, thank you for marrying my brother. Bye.